We have this really romantic idea about what mastery looks like.
Mm-hmm.
We picture this person who's just powered by this bottomless, unending passion, like they're always in the zone.
Right. Always amped up, always motivated.
Exactly. But if you actually, look at how it works over the long haul, the real skill isn't passion at all.
Yo.
It's the ability to handle something much less glamorous.
Yeah.
It's about handling boredom.
It really is the great psychological trick, isn't it? The
Mm.
initial excitement, the novelty, that's what gets you started.
Sure.
But that always fades. It has to. And what's left is what really matters, and that's finding the right balance of difficulty.
Okay, let's dig into that because you're talking about the Goldilocks rule.
Exactly. Too hard, you get anxious and you quit. Too easy, you get bored and you quit.
It has to be just right. So the idea is that we hit our peak motivation when we're working on something of just manageable difficulty.
Right on the edge. The task has to be right on the very edge of your current abilities.
And there's some real science behind this. It's not just a nice phrase.
Oh yeah, this lines up perfectly with something called the Yerkes-Dodson law. It's basically a curve that maps your arousal, your mental focus against your performance.
And at the low end, if a task is too simple, your arousal is low. You drift into boredom.
You're not trying, and your performance is flat.
But then the other end is just as bad. If the task is way too hard, your arousal spikes into anxiety. You're overwhelmed.
And your performance just crashes. You feel powerless, so you don't even really engage.
So that sweet spot is in the middle. The magic happens there.
That's the zone. And the best analogy for this is a game of tennis.
Oh, it's perfect because you can see both failures so clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So you, a regular player, go up against a 4-year-old.
It's a guaranteed win. There's zero challenge.
Total boredom. You'd probably quit after 5 minutes.
Okay, so flip it. Now you're standing across the net from, I don't know, Serena Williams.
Yeah, that's instant demotivation. The outcome is also guaranteed, just in the other direction.
Why even try? The anxiety of just complete failure is too high.
But, and this is the key, if you play someone who is your equal, maybe just a tiny bit better.
Now you're engaged.
Completely. You have to focus on every single shot. You might win, you might lose, but you only have a chance if you give it everything.
That's the feeling. That's just manageable difficulty right there. The work demands your full attention, but the goal feels attainable.
And that feeling is something you can actually engineer. I mean, look at the career of Steve Martin.
Yes. Such a great example because he completely shatters that myth of the overnight success.
His story is all about the incremental approach. He started at Disneyland when he was a kid, selling guidebooks.
Just learning how to perform, how to read an audience, how to time a joke. He was putting in the hours.
For nearly 15 years, he was playing to tiny clubs, sometimes just a handful of people in the audience.
But he was so methodical. This is where you really see the Goldilocks rule in practice.
In how he built his act, you mean?
Yeah, he didn't just write an hour-long special. He would add, maybe a minute or two of new material per year?
That's incredible. So it went from a 5-minute act in high school to a 10-minute act a few years later, just slowly pushing that boundary.
And the genius part was how he balanced it. He'd have his new risky material, the challenge,
And he'd keep a few jokes in the act that he knew would get a laugh.
the guaranteed wins, the small victories. It gave him just enough success to stay motivated and just enough mistakes to keep him working hard.
And that constant small adjustment, that's what gets you into what we call a flow state, right?
Exactly, that feeling of being totally absorbed. And some research even tries to quantify it, saying that flow happens when a task is about 4% beyond your current ability.
The 4% rule. It's just enough of a stretch that you have to pay attention.
You can't be on autopilot.
Okay, so that handles the short term. But here's the problem. We all know that feeling of starting something new and being in flow. But what happens a year later or 10 years later? Why do we all seem to plateau and just stop?
Because that's when the real enemy shows up. And we think the greatest threat to our success is failure. It's not.
No.
The thing that silently ruins almost everyone's progress is boredom.
I think we really underestimate boredom. We see it as this passive thing, but it actively pushes us to sabotage ourselves just because we hate routine.
It absolutely does. I remember reading about an elite weightlifting coach, someone who trained Olympians.
Okay.
And they asked him what the difference was between the best athletes and everyone else. And he said, at the end of the day, it just comes down to who can handle the boredom of training,
Wow.
of doing the same lifts day after day over and over again.
That is so powerful because it means the successful person doesn't have some secret motivation sauce.
No, They feel the exact same drag, the same,
Huh?
I don't want to do this today feeling as everyone else.
We just show up anyway.
They show up anyway. They've learned to separate the action from the feeling. Most of us get derailed because as soon as a habit becomes routine, becomes predictable.
The excitement is gone.
Right. And we mistake that lack of excitement for a sign that the process is broken.
So we jump to a new workout, a new diet, a new project. We chase the feeling of novelty instead of just sticking with the boring thing that was actually working.
A deep human impulse.
Mm.
Machiavelli wrote about it centuries ago. He said that men desire novelty so much that even those who are doing well wish for a change.
So if we're hardwired to seek novelty and boredom is the enemy, are there any, external tricks we can use to fight it? This brings us to variable rewards, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, think about the most habit-forming products out there.
Yeah.
Video games, social media.
They're built on unpredictability.
Exactly. That's a variable reward.
And the classic example here is the slot machine, right?
Perfect example. The action pulling the lever is always the same. Boring, repetitive.
But the outcome is totally unpredictable. And that randomness is what creates a huge dopamine spike, bigger than if you knew you were going to win.
That's what makes it so addictive. It hacks boredom by keeping you in a state of constant anticipation.
So the peak of human desire is, what, like a 50-50 chance of success? Just enough winning to feel good and just enough wanting to keep you trying.
Which, if you think about it, is exactly what the Goldilocks Rule creates.
Yeah.
You're always living on that edge of success and failure.
But here's where it breaks down for real life, for the important goals.
Right.
Most of the crucial habits we need, they can't have variable rewards. They shouldn't.
You don't want your Google search results to only work half the time. Or your Uber to show up, maybe. You need consistency.
So for the things that really matter, health, work, relationships, you can't rely on these external tricks. The path forward has to be internal.
It has to be. Once the novelty is gone, you have to face the repetition head on.
And the only way to do that, to become truly excellent, is to fall in love with the boredom, to be endlessly fascinated by doing the same thing over and over.
This is the dividing line. This is the difference between an amateur and a professional.
And it's not about talent, it's about mindset.
Entirely. An amateur lets their mood decide. I don't feel like it today, so I won't. The day is draining, they feel annoyed, so they skip it.
But the professional, they stick to the schedule.
The professional shows up, regardless of the feeling. They accept that the boredom or the pain is just part of the work. Their job isn't to feel good. Their job is to put in the reps.
And if you think about it, you never regret doing the work. You never finish a workout and think, I wish I hadn't done that.
Never. The regret is always in the skipping. It's in letting a temporary feeling derail a long-term goal.
The professional just learns that the I don't want to feeling is temporary. It's just noise.
You can't be a fair weather rider or a fair weather athlete. Someone who only shows up when conditions are perfect. If it's important, you do it, period.
So really, it's a two-part strategy. You start with the Goldilocks Rule to find that sweet spot of challenge that keeps you engaged. But for the long game, you have to embrace the mindset of professional. You have to accept and even find satisfaction in the repetition.
That's it. That's the whole thing. Anyone can work hard when they feel motivated.
Yeah.
That's the easy part.
Yeah.
The real test, the thing that separates the people who achieve mastery from everyone else who just tries for a bit, is the ability to keep going when the work stops being exciting.
So the real challenge for you listening is this. Passion might be what lights the fuse on a goal, but professionalism, that discipline, that's the wire that actually carries the current for years.
Yeah.
The question isn't whether you can get excited to start. It's whether you have the discipline to be bored. What if the most exciting thing you could possibly do is the quiet, boring work of showing up again tomorrow?